I spent years being the nice guy everyone loved, saying yes to every request, staying late at work, and helping everyone with their problems. Then one day, my therapist asked me a question that changed everything. When was the last time you prioritized yourself? I couldn't answer. That's when I realized my kindness wasn't kindness at all. It was a mask for fear, insecurity, and a desperate need to be liked. This revelation started me on a journey that transformed not just my relationships, but my entire sense of self. Today, I'm sharing the uncomfortable truth about why being too kind might be the very thing holding you back. You know that feeling when someone asks for just one more favor and your stomach tightens, but you smile and say yes anyway? That's not kindness. That's the first warning sign of a dangerous pattern. The nice guy phenomenon has created a generation of men who believe their worth is measured by how accommodating they can be. They've been conditioned to believe that their needs should always come second, that personal sacrifice is the ultimate virtue. But this seemingly harmless belief system exacts a devastating toll that most don't recognize until they're trapped in its grip. What you might not realize is that your career advancement is actively being sabotaged by your excessive agreeableness. Studies have uncovered a direct correlation between being overly accommodating and receiving fewer promotions throughout your professional life. Your reluctance to assert yourself or claim credit for your accomplishments signals to decision makers that you're not leadership material. Each time you downplay your contributions in meetings or take on everyone else's work without recognition, you're essentially telling your organization, I don't believe I deserve more. The physical impact of chronic people-pleasing operates beneath your conscious awareness. Your body registers each unwanted yes as a threat, triggering a stress response that floods your system with cortisol. This isn't just temporary discomfort. It's a physiological reaction that, over time, weakens your immune function, disrupts your sleep patterns, and contributes to chronic health conditions. Your body is trying to tell you something your mind won't acknowledge. This behavior is literally making you sick. Perhaps most concerning is how this pattern creates a gulf between how you perceive yourself and how others actually see you. While you believe your constant accommodation makes you likable and valuable, research reveals a troubling reality. Excessive niceness often triggers suspicion rather than trust. As one study referenced in 9 Bad Things Happen When You're Too Nice points out, people may wonder if you have an ulterior motive when your agreeableness seems unnatural or extreme. The very behavior you thought was endearing is actually causing others to question your authenticity. This distinction between genuine kindness and performative niceness is critical. As explored in The Trouble with Being Nice, authentic kindness emerges naturally from a place of inner security and compassion. It doesn't obsess over outcomes or approval. Nice behavior, by contrast, is strategic and calculated. It's designed to prevent rejection and secure validation. Others intuitively sense this difference. Kind people give because it's in their nature. Nice people bend over backward because they're desperate for approval, making them prime targets for exploitation. The psychological mechanism at work is insidious. Each time you override your own preferences to please others, you reinforce neural pathways that link your self-worth to external validation. Your brain becomes wired to prioritize others' approval over your own well-being, creating a dependency as powerful as any addiction. Breaking this pattern isn't just about saying no occasionally. It requires rewiring how your brain processes social interactions at a fundamental level. Perhaps most devastating is how this behavior pattern attracts exactly the wrong kinds of relationships into your life. Your unwillingness to establish boundaries creates a beacon for those who specifically seek people they can exploit. Without realizing it, you've created a social environment where, as research shows, people may come to you only when they need something. Your relationships become transactional rather than authentic, with others unconsciously categorizing you as a resource rather than an equal. The cruel irony is that the very quality you believed would make people value you, your unlimited availability and agreeableness, is precisely what undermines their respect for you. By presenting yourself as someone without limits, or needs, you inadvertently communicate that your time, energy, and attention hold little value. People don't respect what comes without cost or boundary. Why does being excessively accommodating make you appear weak and untrustworthy? Because human connection is built on authenticity, not performance. When you never say no, you signal that you're operating from fear rather than honesty. Others sense this inconsistency between your words and your internal truth, creating a subtle but persistent discomfort in your interactions. They may not consciously identify what feels off, but their instincts register the disconnection between your behavior and your authentic self. That gap between your words and your internal truth doesn't just damage how others perceive you, it creates a hidden ledger of emotional debts that no one agreed to pay. Have you ever done something nice for someone and then felt strangely angry when they didn't reciprocate or even acknowledge your sacrifice? That bubbling resentment reveals the true cost of your excessive kindness. A dangerous system of unspoken expectations. Every time you override your authentic desires, saying, "Of course I'll help you move," when you desperately need a day to yourself, you're not just performing an act of kindness, you're making an entry in what psychologists call covert contracts. These are unspoken agreements where you expect something in return despite never communicating those expectations to the other person. It's like lending money without telling the borrower they need to pay it back, then growing increasingly frustrated when they don't. This internal accounting system silently tallies each sacrifice. The person asking for your help has no idea you're adding their request to a mental spreadsheet of emotional debts. They simply hear your cheerful yes and take it at face value. Meanwhile, inside your mind, columns of credits and debits accumulate. You begin expecting recognition, gratitude, or similar favors in return. But since the other person never agreed to these terms, they rarely meet your unspoken expectations. The most damaging aspect of this dynamic is how it corrupts your brain's natural reward system rather than experiencing the genuine dopamine release that comes from authentic connection and freely chosen generosity. You become trapped in an addiction-like cycle of seeking external validation. Like any addiction, the satisfaction grows increasingly fleeting while the crashes become more severe. The initial warm glow you feel when someone thanks you for your help diminishes with each transaction. Require ever greater sacrifices to achieve the same emotional payoff. This creates a devastating paradox at the heart of your relationships. The more desperately you try to please others, the less capable you become of forming genuine connections. Authentic relationships require vulnerability and honest expression of needs. But you've trained yourself to hide your true feelings behind a mask of agreeability. Your connections become hollow performances rather than true exchanges between authentic individuals. What makes this cycle particularly insidious is that these suppressed feelings don't simply disappear. They find alternative outlets. As the trouble with being nice explains, when we consistently repress our needs and emotions, these feelings eventually leak out in destructive ways. Your unexpressed boundaries might surface as passive-aggressive comments, subtle withdrawal from friends, or seemingly disproportionate outbursts that leave others confused by your sudden intensity. One moment you're the reliable friend who never says no, and the next you're snapping at someone for a minor request, leaving them wondering what they did wrong. Some individuals turn to more problematic coping mechanisms. The same research shows that the pressure of constant people-pleasing can drive some toward addictive behaviors like overeating or substance abuse. Desperate attempts to soothe the mounting frustration and emotional pain caused by chronically unaddressed needs. You might find yourself reaching for that extra glass of wine after saying yes to yet another commitment you secretly resent. The relationship damage extends beyond your internal struggle. The article 9 Bad Things Happen When You're Too Nice highlights how people pleasers often develop unrealistic expectations of others, leading to anger and resentment when those expectations go unmet. You begin to view relationships through a distorted lens of what you believe you're owed based on your sacrifice. This creates a foundation of bitterness that contaminates even your closest connections. Perhaps most painful is how these unbalanced dynamics create fundamentally one-sided relationships. You're constantly giving without receiving the same level of care in return, creating a pattern where people come to you for support but rarely offer the same depth of consideration for your needs. Your relationships lack the balanced exchange that characterizes healthy connections, leaving you emotionally depleted and increasingly isolated, despite being surrounded by people who like you. How does saying yes to everything lead to this hidden resentment and eventual burnout? Each forced agreement creates an emotional debt that compounds over time, with interest that accrues in the form of growing bitterness. Eventually, this mounting debt bankrupts your capacity for genuine connection, leaving you emotionally insolvent despite all your investments in others. The real power lies not in constant accommodation but in authentic boundary setting. When you prioritize your own needs, you model healthy behavior that creates space for genuine connection, one where both parties feel valued rather than resentful. Today, practice the art of saying no respectfully. Try simple phrases like, I'm not able to commit to that right now, or that doesn't work for me without over explaining or apologizing. You'll discover this small act of self respect creates ripples through your entire life. By reclaiming your power through boundaries, you're not being selfish, you're demonstrating what integrity looks like. And paradoxically, this authenticity is the greatest gift you can offer others.